Doubling down, federal officials say you shouldn't travel for Thanksgiving. Every state, including Colorado, is dealing with high coronavirus case counts, which are trending even higher.
If nothing fundamentally changes between now and beginning of February, we're likely to lose up to total of 400,000 lives, another 150,000 lives.
Many are chafing against Colorado's rules. Teachers' unions say restrictions should be tighter.
A little more predictability.
Restaurant owners say they're too tight.
Changing the rules every 2 seconds is very difficult to plan.
And while many debate the best way to move forward, our hospitals are filling up. One Colorado county hit surge capacity today. We're following breaking news out of New Mexico tonight. Authorities say they have arrested Audrey Burros in the town of Gallup.
Burros, nicknamed Psycho, was wanted in connection to 3 separate human remains found in Conejos County here in Colorado. He was arrested without incident in a motel more than 5 hours away from the spot where those remains were found.
Burros will face charges in Colorado. We'll continue to update you on any new developments throughout this evening.
Well, tonight there are more than 1,600 hospital beds being used by patients with COVID or COVID symptoms. 1/3 of our hospitals could face staffing shortages by Thanksgiving. And as of Wednesday, there are no ICU beds available in Mesa County. The Western Colorado County activated its surge capacity plans today. The executive director of the Western Colorado VA said, quote, "This is a call to arms, asking any retired medical personnel to step up if possible."
We have about 24 hours until new restrictions take effect in most of the counties you see in red here on this map. That includes all of the Denver metro. Offices, restaurants, bars, and gyms will all see reduced capacity, and inside dining is closed altogether. And today, Governor Polis was among a handful of governors who met with President-elect Biden's transition team.
The conversation focused on coronavirus relief. Biden promised financial support for the governors during the meeting. He also said 2 of his priorities are expanding COVID testing and coming up with a plan for safe, free distribution of a vaccine early next year. Now, I asked the governor just a short while ago what he thinks Colorado needs from the federal government.
There needs to be a national health response. This needs to be a national vaccination program. It needs to be a national testing program, which has been mixed. We've augmented it with our own supplies. We've got some from the feds. So you need a cohesive agreement around that now. That means the current Congress. It means Mitch McConnell, Speaker Pelosi, President Trump. Really hopeful that they accomplish that.
Well, tonight, the White House Coronavirus Task Force held its first briefing since April. The task force, led by Vice President Mike Pence, promised help is on the way in the form of vaccines, PPE, and mass testing.
America has never been more prepared to combat this virus than we are today. We're going to work around the clock to keep it that way.
11 states are tightening restrictions. Ohio just put a 10 p.m. curfew in place for the next 3 weeks. And then today, the CDC said our country could see 300,000 COVID deaths by the end of the year.
Teachers' unions from across the state came together today to ask for clarity in the state's dial system.
They want clear standards for when classes should be in person and when they should go remote. With that, here's Denver7's Megan Lopez.
Just 2 days after Governor Jared Polis said he'd like to see in-person instruction resume in elementary schools.
We feel that based on the data, for many families and for many kids, that is the safest place they can be.
2 days after he released a new COVID-19 dial with level purple, teachers' unions from across the state have come together to ask for more metrics.
Our schools have been a roller coaster of confusion and chaos since March.
We have experienced a lack of clear, consistent, and transparent metrics to guide decision making.
They say district decisions to be in person or go remote is causing animosity with parents.
It's reached a level where they are getting threatening emails, some to the level of death threats.
So they suggested a dial of their own that would use the area's percent positive rate to determine how schools should react.
My name is John Robinson. I'm a civics teacher, and as an educator, it has been quite unstable. Our educators right now are working probably 4 times the amount of work that they did just a year ago.
Educators say it's not just about safety, but also staffing.
When we look at quarantine rates, when we look at absentee rates, we're stretched to the maximum right now.
We feel it. I mean, we know that there's a struggle, and it's
You know, the shortage is not just in teachers, but it's also in sub-staff. And
PE teacher Julie Nelson works at Traylor Elementary in Denver. They're about to go remote again and are doing their best to make it work.
We do exercise videos with our kids for online.
With so much uncertainty about the COVID-19 numbers right now, they have to be flexible.
If we're not flexible, we're not meeting the needs of our community. We want to be in person and live teaching as much as we can, but we also want to be safe.
The teachers' unions are hoping a dial will create more certainty and less animosity if they can get school districts to sign on to it first. Megan Lopez, Denver 7.
Summit County is set to slide back to the red level tomorrow, but not the entire county. Commissioners were approved to delay restrictions on restaurants until Sunday evening. With ski season starting, the county wanted more time to prepare. Now, the good news is the red level will allow Keystone, Breckenridge, and A-Basin to stay open. Indoor dining will be closed and shops will have tighter capacity limits.
More than 9,000 people filed for unemployment benefits for the first time last week. So in total, more than 200,000 people collecting benefits last week. Because of the pandemic, Colorado has paid out now unemployment benefits more this year than the last 8 years combined. And we saw a familiar trend today at Colorado testing sites. Many of them closed early because they ran out of tests, including this one at the Jeffco Fairgrounds.
And our country is testing more people, and the problem is the backups at the labs where those tests are processed. A group representing the major labs says testing demand is causing everybody to run out of supplies. Some people aren't getting results for 5 days or more, and at that point, the results aren't very helpful. Contact Denver7 has done extensive reporting on the testing issues here in Colorado, and we will have that story for you coming up on Denver7 News at 6.
And health officials say if we're going to stay safe, we need to stay away from each other.
For the first time in recent history, the CDC is advising people not to travel this holiday season. Denver7's Jason Grenauer explains the decision.
The CDC made it pretty clear today.
Amidst this critical phase of the COVID-19 pandemic, CDC is recommending against travel during the Thanksgiving period.
A strong recommendation citing an exponential growth in cases and concerns that the virus could be transmitted to and through households across the country. The TSA also falling in line.
My best advice to the traveler is to consider the recommendations that the Centers for Disease Control have made. It's an individual choice to make the journey. We just want to do everything we can to do the utmost to protect passengers should they choose to make that journey.
Local TSA out at DIA say they've increased social distancing in lines. Those working checkpoints will wear PPE. But that doesn't account for every potential risk to travelers.
The bins and those tables are still common space used by dozens, if not hundreds, or even potentially thousands of people during the period of time when you might be flying.
Another perspective beyond government agencies to take into account the family of a Colorado TSA agent who died from COVID-19 earlier this week.
I don't think it's safe for anyone to travel.
Yet still, AAA predicts 50 million Americans will hit the road and the skies this Thanksgiving. Governor Polis, speaking earlier this week, said if you haven't started a pre-travel quarantine to keep yourself and those you're visiting safe, it's already too late.
There's some that are already quarantining so that they can have a safer Thanksgiving with others, but it is now too late to begin that quarantine for yourself for Thanksgiving. You really would have needed to start that a few days ago.
The CDC writing in their nationwide guidelines that postponing travel and staying home is the best way to protect yourself and others this year. I'm Jason Grenauer, Denver 7.
And as the U.S. focuses on COVID, President Trump remains focused on the election. ABC News has learned President Trump is planning to meet with 2 Michigan state lawmakers tomorrow. His legal team has repeatedly questioned the results out of Michigan, specifically in Detroit. And out of the 19 election-related lawsuits filed by the Trump team, only 1 has ended with a favorable outcome for the president. 3 are still pending. 15 others were withdrawn or ended with a loss for the White House. And then today, the president's personal attorney, Rudy Giuliani, claimed that his team has evidence of a centralized pattern of fraud, though he declined to share details.
And what emerged very quickly is there's not a singular voter fraud in one state. This pattern repeats itself in a number of states.
President-elect Biden called the Trump team, quote, totally irresponsible. And we're keeping an eye on Georgia tonight. Georgia has reportedly finished its ballot audit and is expected to release results in the next few hours.
So the warm days are over for a while. This front is also going to bring rain and snow.
For many mom and pop restaurants, new COVID restrictions represent the end of the line. Why they say this temporary setback, though, won't be a knockout blow.
You just get to a place where you can't absorb those costs.
And thousands of you have seen this car, but can you explain how it wound up parked near the South Platte pedestrian trail?